What's up, guys? I want to start this video off by saying I am learning as I'm going. Like, this is the beginning of this video is like maybe a year and a half ago, and I was just first getting into diesels. So this was actually my first diesel project. Since then, I've worked on a couple other diesel engines. I've got the two Cummins that I have, and so as you'll notice throughout the video, I start to kind of pick up better terminology, and I start to have a little more education on the diesel engines and how they work. But this was my first introduction to diesel engines. Okay, so I just realized that this top part here is a return, and this is the supply. But unfortunately, it is wide open, and who knows what's been in there. So I can't just stick fuel to it. I gotta, unfortunately, take this injection pump off and clean it out as best I can. Really didn't want to open it up, but because it's really hard to find gaskets and stuff for this pump. So I guess I might be making a few homemade gaskets and whatnot. But if I send that debris through that pump, it's gonna ruin it. So that's what I'm gonna do next. So behind this cover, on the other side of the injection pump, on the timing cover, there's some bolts apparently that have to come off. Let's dig in. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, you can see it. That little notch, that's the key for that shaft. And the manual says to get it at the 11 o'clock position so that when you pull that pulley off, the key doesn't fall into the oil pan. There's a special tool that's better fit for this, but this is just a harmonic balancer puller, and this is all I have. So, but I got everything threaded, so we'll see if we can get it to separate that gear from the injection pump. Guess we'll just try and pull it out. Okay, I guess that gear just kind of sits there. This probably weighs at least, I don't know, 10 pounds. This set screw is, I don't know if you can see it, but the set screw is oh, that wasn't too bad. Wow, that's heavy. So yeah, this is the inlet port. And as you can tell, it is just covered in junk. So, and then this is your run position. This is a start position. And I think that's off right there. And then, I don't know what this one is up here. Maybe throttle. Oh, that's interesting. When I pulled this pump off, I lined that key up here at the top. Well, the key is down here on the bottom. And I just sure, well, for one, it doesn't look like there's a key there anymore. It looks like it's broken. But also, it might have been when I had the pulley puller on it, and I was cranking it off, it turned it. But that looks kind of sheared off. Let me get my pick tool, see if I can get that out. I just pulled the hub out of that gear, and look at that. That is 100% spun. wonderful. So now I think I know what was stopping it from turning over. And me bumping that starter back and forth, eventually broke the key because this is locked up, and spun this out. I wonder if it's even possible to get this part anymore. Fantastic. I hope nothing inside is broken. See, my gut told me take the injection pump off before trying to turn it over. But I was like, nah, it'll be fine. I didn't realize fuel was disconnected. So, let's open it up and see what we find. Not looking good. Got a lot of water in there. Wow. The little needle pin was like that. Couple springs. As I continued to tear this down, it just became clear that I wasn't going to be able to salvage this pump. There were too many parts that were seized or corroded or rusted apart, and this was just beyond any sort of repair or anything. So I was going to have to look for a new pump, see if I could find a replacement or a conversion pump. And so that's where I was at this point. Just took it apart the rest of the way just for curiosity's sake, just to see what everything looked like. I've never been in one of these before. And I was still getting into diesels when I filmed this. So it was definitely interesting to see how everything worked. I mean, I really didn't know what I was looking at, but it was interesting to see. And later on in this video, I do get a replacement injection pump. So we're back on the tractor project, trying to get it running. Injection pump, I finally bought one. It's here. Now, the only problem is these injectors are almost guarantee you no good, because they spent, however long exposed to the elements. You can see a little bit of rust and stuff right there. If you shine a light down in there, it's super rusty in there, and there's no way that's gonna fly. A piece of debris or something will get stuck in the ports, and it won't inject and won't spray properly. So trying to get them out to maybe clean them, or if they're too far gone, buy new ones. This one did not want to budge. Instructions somewhere said to put a wrench on this and hammer it to twist it to break it free, and then you kind of pull it out. Well, I did that on this one. It wouldn't work clockwise, and then I did it counterclockwise, which unfortunately it's threaded together, and so this top half of the injector came off, and there's a spring in here. And I mean, this thing is all, you can kind of see there's the rust pieces in there. But the bottom half of the spray nozzle is still in there. Didn't know how to get it out, so I put some PP Blaster in these holes. Hopefully it'll seep down and, I don't know, maybe break it loose. Well, I hammered on this for a while to try and twist it clockwise so it wouldn't unthread like this one, and this one will not budge at all. And then this one, the only way, I mean, I already ruined the injector by unscrewing it in the port. So I took a socket and set it on top of the nozzle like that and hammered it out, like literally 2 taps, and it came out. Which actually didn't damage the tip of the nozzle. So, but you can see the original Bosch part number, Germany. So I'm gonna see if I can find me some injectors that are gonna work. And I'm hoping that the sleeve is okay, because there's a metal sleeve that goes down in here. I don't know if you can see it very well, but it's not this top one, it's further down. You can kind of see the ring around it. Anyway, there's a sleeve in there that can corrode or whatever, from what I read, and would need to be removed to make a clean, solid fit for the new injector. I'm not sure, I don't even know how to replace that. So I'm gonna try and get these other 2 injectors out, and then maybe I'll test them. I've got an injector tester to test the spray pattern and everything, test the pop pressure and everything on it. But yeah, I don't think these are gonna work. If I can do this, I think I'm game. Like in my previous videos, the engine turned over, cylinders looked to be in, I mean, not in amazing condition, but they were in okay condition, you know, to run. So if I can at least get a few hundred hours out of that tractor, that would be awesome. You know, they're not high RPM or, you know, long running hour operations with these. You know, you don't use them too often, so hoping to get at least some life out of it. So let me try and hammer these and see if it'll come out. So this one is actually taking the sleeve out with it. Oh man, you can kind of see it there. It taking the sleeve out with it. Here we go. It came all the way out. There's that sleeve I was talking about. I don't know how I'm gonna get the other one out of here, because I can replace the sleeve, no problem. Well, let's see if this other one comes out. Yeah, the sleeve's coming out on this one too. I wish the sleeve had come out on the first one. That would have made my life a lot easier. So anyway, this is what, you can see where the crimp is, or the press fit, the interference fit is at the top of the head, where you got that rust ring. That's where it sits here, and then down here, you can see that shiny part where it seals at the bottom. And then this, the stuff that's oxidized here, sits in the water jacket. So coolant flows past this. That's what helps keep this injector cool. This is made out of copper, I believe. I mean, it's got the green coloring, so yeah. So, kind of curious as to what would happen if I did put pressure in here, if these injectors would fire. So I'm gonna have to look up how to, in the manual, I think it tells you how to remove these injector sleeves, because this one's still in there. These are, I think the injector sleeves are like 30 bucks a piece, And then these are like 175, 200 bucks a piece, which is unfortunate, but. All right, I've got it cleaned up down in there. And then I cleaned up the injector to increase the odds of me having success with this. So we'll get this threaded in and we'll try to hammer it. Well, unfortunately, that did not work. And it actually pulled the whole injector out. It's probably because I put BB Blaster down there. So I'm rebuilding these injectors. Hopefully I'm trying to. So there's the nozzle, the needle, this spacer or whatever, your spring seat, spring, and then you've got two shims that adjust the pressure at which the injector pops. At least that's my understanding. So I've got one taken apart here. It's pretty rough condition, but these injectors are the cheapest I can find. Them are like $100 for remands. And all right, well, we've got my homemade rebuilt injector. I do not have high hopes for this, just because. So we're gonna thread it on, and then I'll tighten this down and give it a try. All right, so I had one nozzle that would work, but it was clogged. So I worked at it with a fine piece of wire from a wire brush and got it to unclog. And now here is it working. All right, we're back on our tractor project. It's been a while. I've been slowly working on it. So here's one of the old injectors. I tried to clean it up, and this was so pitted and so eaten away that when I torqued it down, it actually cracked right here. So this injector was no good. I did get two of the other injectors cleaned up. So these are cleaned, they're working properly, and they are wrapped up. And then I've got new injector sleeves to go into the injector holes. And then, so the injector that broke, I had to replace it. So here's the replacement. However, this has a slightly different nozzle in it that is has a slight horsepower increase. I guess it was just a design change. I talked to a guy from a company that said that he recommended I did not run the old nozzle design with the new nozzle design. He didn't think it would be good to run two of one type and one of the other. So, but they don't make that nozzle anymore. But I went on to eBay and actually found a guy that was selling two of these nozzles. They don't make these anymore. These are discontinued and whatever. So I'm actually going to take, these are brand new, so I'm going to take one of these and put it in this. That way they're all the same nozzle design. All right, so when I took the old injectors out, the injector was stuck to the sleeve, and it pulled it all out as one unit. So, or at least on these two. This one, just the injector came out, and the nozzle stayed. So to remove this, I've got a thread tap, 7/8 that is going to go right into here, and you'll thread this down, and then I'm going to flip it over and hammer it out, and that should remove this sleeve. So after I do that, I'm going to have to clean out the water jacket and then clean everything up, because this has been sitting for a while. It's got cat hair and grease and dirt all over it. So we'll clean it up, and then we'll install our new sleeves, and then we'll prep the actual block side of the tractor and clean it up and get it ready to install the head again. Well, it worked like a charm. It backed right out. I've got the head mostly cleaned up with a brush. Alright, I've got the head all cleaned up. I lapped all the valves. They're not perfect, but good enough, I hope. And so just finished washing it for like the 1000th time. There's all my valve seats. So we're gonna take this inside and start putting the valves back in it. Got one down, 5 more to go. Alright, I've got all my valves and springs and everything installed. Now I need to install these, which are called injector sleeves. They go down in this hole, and basically coolant flows around this part of it and keeps the injector cool. So need to hammer it in, but first I've got some Loctite. I'm going to put it around the sealing surfaces, so this right here, this cone area, and then I've got this socket that, since there's a step here, I'll put the socket in and I can drive it in with a hammer till it bottoms out. Alright, all the injector sleeves are installed. We're getting closer. I have assembled the rocker assembly, cleaned everything. This actually has to come out to get to the head bolts underneath, but in order to set it all, I had to install it and tighten everything down like this, and then I'll pull it back off and as one piece. So we are just about ready to put this on the block. All right, we're back at it today. I haven't done anything with this for like months, so it's just kind of been sitting. So everything's got a little bit of surface rust on it. I'm gonna take this scraper and start just scraping the head or the block surface here to clean it up and get it ready for the new head gasket. All right, so what I've decided to do is install the new injection pump first, since it'll be a lot easier to check the timing and get it to top dead center. So I'll do that and then put the head on. I've got the, whatever you call that, adapter plate installed onto the gear, and then this gasket will go between the casing and the pump. So we'll get it on there. All right, I got the injection pump on, which was not very easy because there is literally no clearance on these bolts or these nuts. So that was not fun, but it's on there now. I just put the cover over the timing gear or the pump gear. So there is going to be a little bit of modifications I'm going to have to do because this is the return, and obviously I can't just swap it over. And then I'm not even sure where the feed hose is. Actually, this might be it actually. But anyway, and then there's the water separator. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be a fuel filter or not, but it's got a bowl on it, so I think that's a water filter. So now that that's all on, I'm gonna check the timing, make sure it's correct while I've got the head off, and then I'll clean this up, put the head back on. So here is cylinder number 1, but if you look down here, you get like a laser. So that right there is supposed to be top dead center. This is my mark right around here. This is 20 degrees before top dead center. I ran out of marks over here. So I'm way, like, because my cylinder is all the way at the top, this mark should be up here, but it's not, so I'm confused. All right. So as you can see here on this crank pulley, I don't know how well you can see them, but there are some etched in marks. Those are the timing marks. So right here at the top is our top dead center. Well, we're top dead center on the number 1 cylinder, and my marker was way off. Like this was way up here. And so I think at some point this pulley slipped. So what I went ahead and did was I unscrewed or unbolted the front piece that clamps that pulley into place, and then here's the wedge, the ring wedge that this big spacer presses on the back side of this. You can see where it was, and it wedges this in there really tight against the crank. Now there's no keyway or anything, so I think at some point it shifted for whatever reason. I don't know if that was a long time ago or now, but I don't think it necessarily would have, wouldn't have messed up the tractor running or not. But it does make it tricky to time because I don't have the marks that I need to have, because this needs to be set to 14 degrees before top dead center. So I need to find top dead center to begin with, then I can set it to 14 degrees and then set the injection pump. So that's what I'm doing. And I just pried it off enough down there off the crank that it should be nearly free here, and I can rotate it properly, match up my cylinder, get it top dead center exactly, and then line up my pointer, which is right there, with the first mark, which would be top dead center, and then I can go on from there. The other thing too is you can see this counterweight that's on this pulley, and so if it slips, then all of a sudden the engine's out of balance, and so it's probably shaking a good bit whenever it was running. So we will kind of tidy this up a little bit, get all the oil off of it so it doesn't slip again, and then set the proper timing with these timing marks. Alright, I cleaned it up and you can actually see where it slipped. So originally it would have been here. There's 2 threaded holes
on that side of the crank, and that's where they were. And then there was a dowel pin that would sit inside this keyway here, and when everything shifted, let's see, it would have shifted, no, these would have been the original holes, and when everything shifted, the new marks were here and here, and it sheared that dowel pin, and the hole for it left a mark over here. If you look really close, you'll actually see where there's a dent where the pin was sheared off, sliding this way. So the whole thing was just clocked, you know, this instead of being like this, it was clocked like this. So got everything cleaned up. Go ahead and throw her back on and get it as close as we possibly can, because I don't have a new dowel pin. You can actually see in there the leftover piece of dowel that was there, but the other piece is long gone. All right, I got the pulley back on. You can kind of see, if it would focus, that I am now on the top dead center mark with my pointer, and I am indeed top dead center. So now what we need to do is back this off. We need to advance the timing by 14 degrees. So we'll come up, there's actually a mark on here where 10 is, and every mark is 2 degrees. So that's 10, 12, 14. So I need to go to this mark right here. So we'll just bring it. All right. I've got the pump drive gear and hub torqued down. That's center nut 44 foot-pounds, and the outer bolts at 19. So at this point, everything should be timed properly, and so this tractor should fire right up when I do the first startup, hopefully. So now we can just clean off the deck here and then get ready to put the head on. All right, I've got the deck all cleaned up, about as best as it's gonna get. Not gonna be perfect. This tractor isn't worth it. So, new gasket right here, head gasket. Gotta make sure to orient this properly, because over here is the oil port, which goes right there. And there's not one on the other side, so just gotta make sure to flip it properly. So yeah, we'll put the gasket on, then we'll put the head on top. All right, I've got the head on. All the bolts are where they need to be. Now I just need to tighten them down in the specific sequence. And then that'll probably be it for tonight. All right, I got the head on, everything torqued down. Ended up going up to 104 foot-pounds. I got the rockers in there just sitting there. They're not actually bolted in right now. But the head's finally back on after sitting in the house for quite a long time. I still got to put the push rods in, obviously, and then torque down everything, and that'll be it. I'll leave all this though for another day. And so I've just taken the old fuel filter off. This is the mount for it. See the old crusty fuel filter. But I'm noticing that this is broken. There's a piece here, and it looks like there's an O-ring that goes around that and seals in here. I'm not sure if I just broke that just now or if it was like that. I don't hear any rattling or anything. I wonder if that's been broken for like as long as my dad had this tractor, because he was always talking about having fuel delivery issues and having to I just remember him bleeding the fuel lines a lot, and I wonder if that's a reason why. Because yeah, this is not going to be any good. I've got another one on the other side for the water separator. So maybe it's good, but this probably isn't going to be any good, to be honest. So, and then I need to get a new filter and bowl and everything, so clean all this up. Here's the other one. You can see that there is an O-ring in there, and it's not broken. So I'm going to clean this one up, and we'll use this one. I don't know if this is a fuel water separator and then a fuel filter, or if it's two fuel filters. This looks like just two fuel filters, but I don't know why they would run dual fuel filters unless it's just a safety measure. Because normally you see it the other way. You see where it's the water separator and then the fuel filter. So anyway, we'll clean this up. I'll go see if I can get a filter and an oil filter as well. And then I also need to get, I guess I can reuse this bowl. So we'll go from there. I had to order some more of these banjo bolts so that I could run the fuel lines. Everything's all cleaned up, new filter. Everything is new O-rings and seals. So we are ready to set up our fuel lines, and hopefully this works. Well, today might be the day. Got a trash bag covering up the head and everything. You don't want rain. We got a lot of rain over the last couple days, probably about 2 inches, so covered that up. we might be able to get this thing to start today. I got a few of my parts in, so let's see. First thing first, gotta do an oil change because I think there's a lot of water inside there. I want to get all the water out and new oil in there. I like this oil plug because it's a square drive, 1/2-inch drive. Oh, look at all that water. See how much is in there before it turns to oil. It's all water. There we go, now we got oil. I'm gonna dump out this water because there's 7 quarts of oil in here. At least that's the capacity, so take all this water and just dump it elsewhere. Ooh. Any day now. There we go. So I got 2 gallons of oil. So, and this takes 7 quarts, so. And here's the oil filter. I already broke it loose. I did it off camera, unfortunately, but I was trying to get the starter to turn. And I stuffed paper towels in these holes to, just in case any water got in there, that the paper towel would soak it up and it wouldn't go down into the cylinder, even though I had covered it up. I also just wanted to keep debris out of it. and I turned it over and I heard a loud popping sound, and this paper towel flew out. And then I didn't know what it was, but I kept working on the starter, and then it made another revolution, and this one popped. So I wonder if I can get it on camera, this one coming out. Oh, wow. Well, we know we got compression. Hold the rockers out, clean up these push rods, and then we'll put them in. All right, the rocker arms are in, torqued down. I've kind of pre-lubed everything. I'm not sure if the valve lash is gonna be correct. I think it's 30 thousandths on each one. But I'm not super worried about that right now. So I am going to, before I put the injectors in, hook it up to the battery and turn it over and make sure that oil's coming up here, because oil comes up inside this bracket, and then this silver tube runs the whole length down and it fills up with oil. It comes out the top of these ports, like right there and there, and then it comes down and it lubricates this. But it also, there's holes inside that tube that lubricate the bushings in each one of these rockers. So I want to make sure I see oil all across here so we got good oil flow. Alright, now I've got oil. You can see them. Alright, here's my remanufactured injector. The other one I had cracked down the cap while I was torquing it down. So this one looks a heck of a lot better than these two, which are the ones that came out of it. But I got these to work, so I took them apart, cleaned them, and they started to pop properly. So I figured we'll try to use them, and if they don't work, I can get some more of these. These are about $100 a piece. So I just wanted to avoid it. However, these two have the original design nozzles in them, which are these silver parts right here. And but they had a horsepower increase of like about 5 horsepower or something like that in a new design, which is this one right here, later on. So these ones have the original, and this one has the updated design. And one guy I talked to said he doesn't recommend that I put all of them together. They all need to be the same. So I can update these two to the new design, or update this, or revert this back to the old design. They don't make the old design anymore, which is called the 690. And but a guy on eBay actually was selling some, that discontinued, obviously. So I want to say these were, I don't know, these were like $20 a piece or something like that. So I figured we'll take this apart, swap that brand new nozzle into this one, and then they're all 690s. The new ones I think are like 830s or something like that. So we'll if these injectors end up not working, I'll put the 830 back into this one, and I'll get some new injectors. So, but for now, we'll swap a 690 nozzle into here. That way they're all the same across the board. Put these ones in and see if it works. All right, here's the nozzle that came with it. 815 is what it's called. So this is an 815. And then I've got over here a 690. There's what the stack up looks like. And then you put that cap on it. All right, and then the cap gets torqued down to 50 foot-pounds. Now to be sure it works, I've got it on my injection tester, or injector tester, see if it pops properly. They call these crab mounted injectors. You got that kind of crab shaped claw that pins down the injectors. These ones get torqued down to 200 inch-pounds. Alright, I just finished cleaning up the hard lines So we're gonna see if I can get these on. So as you can see, these fuel lines aren't gonna match up, obviously, to the new injection pump exactly, because it's not the same. So it's gonna be a little tricky. You know, these are somewhat flexible, so I think I can get those to bend properly, but I don't know which one is which. Like what the firing order is on this. Because if this is one, I don't know if this is number one or this is number one. So that's a little tricky. So what I might need to do is get the fuel set up to this and watch which port shoots out first, and then match it up to whatever cylinder that would have been shooting to. So that's gonna be a little tricky. All right, here's my setup. I've got a old cat litter box that I've put a valve on it down to a hose fitting. I've got that hose coming to my temporarily mounted fuel filter. This is coming into the inlet, and then on the outlet side, just coming down, dangling, I'm going to bleed the system first. This tractor doesn't have a fuel pump. The fuel tank is right here. So you've got this side, and it comes across in the middle. And it's gravity fed, so it literally uses the weight of the fuel in the fuel tank and gravity to fuel that pump. It comes down through here. Normally, fuel filter number one is right here, and then it goes through it and loops around the other side of the engine. And then it normally comes in up underneath the injection pump and then up into the injection pump. So, but for temporary purposes and just to see if this engine will run before I spend any more money on this, I'm going to just do this little setup here and see if it works. Alright, I've got all the lines are finally bled. I had some trouble bleeding the injection pump, but I spoke to the guys that sold it to me, and he kind of walked me through getting it bled off. So now if I hook up my jumper cables, you'll see my injectors are all firing. However, they're firing 1, 2, 3, and they need to be firing 1, 3, 2. So I'm gonna have to swap these two lines, which might take a little bit of modifications. Actually, no, they're pretty similar, so should just be able to bend them. And then we'll get the injectors installed in the holes, and should be able to crank this thing up. Well, couldn't get it started because the starter doesn't turn over fast enough, and I'm pretty sure it's the starter, not my batteries, because I tried 1, 2, I even tried putting 2 batteries together to make a double capacity 12-volt battery, and then I obviously pulled off the Jeep as well while it was running and everything, and it really didn't make any change to the starter. So I think the starter is bad because this right here is the truck out of my Cummins, so it shouldn't have any problem at all turning this over. So we will probably get a new starter. They're like $150, so not terrible. All right, we're back at it again. I took the old starter off. It's only a couple years old, but I think it's the problem. Got a new one because, like I said, it was turning over really slow. It wasn't turning over like a regular speed. It kept hitting the compression stroke, and then it would bog through the compression stroke, and it would go again, and it wasn't actually sitting there turning over well. So I wasn't sure if it was maybe something's engaged here, like a PTO or whatever. As far as I'm aware, all of these levers are where they should be. This one is missing, but down inside, it looks like it's in the correct position. So, because I think there's a lock for neutral that and it's sitting in that lock. So we'll put the new starter on and then turn it over, see if that fixes it. If it doesn't, this battery's all juiced up. There's no problems with it. It's brand new. So that means something's not quite right with the rest of the tractor. So I just kind of have to mess with it. So we'll get this on and try to clutch down. Let's see here. So it doesn't really turn over better when I push the clutch. All right, we're back at it today. Give a quick recap of what I've done. So I hope, I'm not exactly sure, but I think I have set the injection pump correctly. Lined it up with cylinder 1 at top dead center, so, or 14 degrees. So that should be good. I was trying to figure out last night why it wouldn't turn over quickly, and turns out that it was the jumper cables the whole time. They were not allowing enough amps through, because I put the battery down there and I touched it to the 2 leads directly, and the thing instantly turned over with, 2 or 3 times the strength. So we're gonna bleed the injection pump and then see if it fires up. All right, guys, I believe I've got the injectors bled. So I've got the camera set up on the exhaust side so you can see the exhaust, and then I'm gonna see if it starts. Alright guys, so the engine is mostly running. It's still not running very well though, which means it can be three things. Injectors, so fuel delivery, so the injectors, or timing. The injection pump could not be timed properly, or it could be compression. So we could have fuel bypassing the injector seats, which I confirmed is not happening, because you can put like diesel fuel around here, and if it was bypassing where the injector seats, it would be bubbling up, and it was on this one at one point, but I seated it down a little more and it went away, so that's not happening. So it's got to be the pistons or the valve train. So or it can be timing of the injection pump. As far as I know, this is timed properly. It's timed enough to make it mostly run, apparently. So I figured timing is a little tricky, but compression is kind of somewhat easy to check. So I'm going to do that next and eliminate that. I did eliminate the fuel delivery because these injectors are all rebuilt, and I tested them on my injector tester, and they were all spraying perfectly and popping at 3,000 psi consistently. I'm going to show you my homemade compression tester. This is a diesel compression gauge. It goes up to 1,000 psi because cars usually like 100, 150, 200, but diesel works off compression, and so these ones will be between 300 and 400 on these tractors, from what I understand. Anyway, these injectors are a little tricky because they don't thread in or anything. They rely on being pushed against the sleeve inside the seat with pressure on the top. So you've got this kind of claw-shaped bracket with a bolt that pushes it down and seals it. So it's hard to find a cheap, adapter or whatever to hook up a gauge to. So what I did is I took one of my old injectors and I welded the two halves shut, because normally they thread apart here. So I welded that up, and then I welded closed the return port, and then on the top I welded a adapter to the top of the injector so that I could hook my compression gauge to it. I also removed the internals of the gauge, or of the injector, so that air can freely pass all the way through. So we're gonna give this a shot. All right, and then the injector comes right out. Gonna lay this on a paper towel, and then my makeshift injector tester, or compression tester, goes in just like that. And then we take our crab bracket, put it on, and then we'll tighten that down, put the gauge on, and hook up the battery to the starter. And now we'll take the gauge, and it will just pop on like that. Kind of prop this somewhere, I guess. It should hold, because there's a release valve here, it should hold my pressure, so I don't have to watch it too closely. Everything should be good. I'll go ahead and crank it over and see what it tops out at. Alright, just above 300 psi. I think the manual said like 315 to 335 was the ideal range, but they all needed to be within, I think it was like 35 psi. So let's check the second one. All right, got the second one hooked up See what this one shows. Again, touch over 300. We're looking at around, I think that's like 320, 10, 15, 315. Maybe I'm reading that wrong, but. Okay, number 3 is in. Let's check it. This is my starter wire. That one is sitting at 340. So like 310, 315, 320, and 340. I've got it back in number 1 just to be 100% sure. Yeah, it really stops at 310 there. Here are the injectors I pulled in order of 1, 2, and 3. You can see 3 is really the only one that's burning fuel. These ones not so much. So I'm just gonna swap them all and see if it makes a difference. Because right now cylinder number 3 is the one that's firing and it has the highest compression. So, but only by like 40 psi, 30 psi. So I think we're good on compression. I'm gonna check the manual real quick and double check. All right, I just checked the manual. It says compression at starting speed for a 3-cylinder is between 313 psi and 341 psi. These two are within that. This is at 315, this was 340. This was at 310. But is 3 psi going to make that much of a difference? I don't think so. So I really think compression is not our issue. I did not think it was, but I wanted to be sure before I really started messing with the timing, because that's the most inconvenient part. And I was able to do it using a $30 test kit and a homemade modified injector, so it wasn't too much of a hassle. So now we know, I'm pretty sure it's timing. Another hint as to why I think it's timing is when it's idling, it's only firing on cylinder number 3. But when I rev it up, if you kind of noticed in the video, you would hear the other 2 kick in at higher RPMs. Now the timing, or the injection pump, does advance the timing at higher RPMs, just like a regular vehicle would. So it could be that when I'm getting higher RPMs, it's advancing it enough for the other 2 to kick in, and that's why. So that's just my thinking on it. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but at this point, got all good injectors. I got good injection pump. May not be timed properly. Compression's good. The only thing I haven't checked is valve lash. So I could check that and make sure that's where it needs to be, but just eyeballing it, they all seem very close. So I will call the guy for the pump in the morning and really triple check how to time that pump. I feel like I've got it really close, but not sure. So, all right, well, I guess we'll see you in the next segment. One more thing I noticed while cranking it over, once I got all the injectors back in and everything, you'll notice in this one, white smoke comes out, whereas the other 2, there doesn't seem to be any white smoke. Not sure why that would be, except for maybe some sort of leaking past the valves or something. Or the valve lash is not set, so we'll check that for sure. All right, guys, it's time to try to figure out the final piece of the puzzle. So, talked to the guys that I bought the injection pump from, and he said the way to find top dead center on the injection pump is to apply 100 to 120 psi through the outlet port that's connected to my number 1 cylinder, and then turn by hand the drive shaft to the injection pump. And then when it stops, that's the point of injection. for that outlet port. So that will tell me when that's at the firing point, and then I need to set that to 14 degrees before top dead center for static timing. Now, the manual says for the VA pump, which is what used to be on here, it needs to be 14 degrees before top dead center. But it says for VE pumps, it needs to be 8 degrees before top dead center. So I'm not sure if this classifies as a VE pump. I think it does. I think it's considered a VE pump. So I might set to 14 degrees, see how that is. If it runs, great. If it doesn't, try 8 degrees and see if that changes things. So yeah, let's give it a shot. The injection pump, letter E there, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a letter inscribed on that rotor. Let's see if it'll, yeah, there it is. That is top dead center for port W, which is the one closest to us. So that means that we should be good to go on the injection pump. All right, I just turned the engine over twice to get back onto compression stroke on number 1, and our injection pump is exactly where it needs to be. So we're officially set. Unfortunately, it's dark outside and it's getting late, so I'm gonna button everything up for tonight and come back at it probably this weekend. And hopefully, fingers crossed, this will crank up with no more issues. I got a new fuel filter mount and filters. This one leaks pretty bad. I stuffed a glove under there, a piece of the latex glove. That stopped it, but I need to get a new one so I don't have any more issues out of it, because I'm already having enough issues. But if this does run, I'll have to get a new radiator. And then I can't imagine that water pump is in too great a shape, but I'm also about to be, once I fill this with coolant, there's gonna be a ton of rust inside the engine that's going to be floating around. So I'll probably run that pump for a little while, break up all that rust, drain the coolant, keep flushing it a few times before I put the new pump on there. Just, I don't want to tear up the new pump. So, but none of that really matters if this doesn't start. So